Hello and welcome back to Radio Free Urbanism. I'm your host, Alex Williams, and today I'm joined by two fantastic guests, though one of our regulars is missing. I'm joined by Ethan Myers, of course.
Guest. I'm a
I
co-host.
mean,
Unless something
co-hosts. I'm
changed with
sorry.
the
I'm sorry.
rules,
I'm sorry.
folks. Apparently, I've been
You know,
promoted to guest, folks.
you know what?
Many such cases.
This is this show was Nick's idea, and now that he's not here, I'm taking over. You guys are guests. Actually, no, they're co-hosts. I've got Ethan Myers here with me, and of course, Jen Hall.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah, we're happy to have Jen here. Jen's a good friend of mine and a good friend of the show, regular listener and commenter. So if you want to know how to listen to the show, just follow Jen's lead and just comment on every episode with interesting questions. But we're going to kind of introduce Jen a little bit here, as well as get some cool news from Jen. So Jen, do you want to tell us a little bit first about who you are and how you got into urbanism?
Sure. Yeah. So I am in the same city as Alex, Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And about myself, well, I guess I'm an urbanism nerd. I don't make urbanism content. I'll occasionally post on my social media about my thoughts. But outside of that, I went to art school, studied design and photography, spent some time teaching in an Apple store, and now I teach lawyers how to use their technology. This is just the way the world works. You just follow along and end up discovering things and learning things, and yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. And Ethan, before we get into Jen's thing, do you have any questions you want to know about Jen?
No, we can figure that out on the way.
All right, perfect. Well,
like
Jen, recently, do you want to tell everybody where you went, and then we'll take the conversation from there?
Sure. I went to the Winter Cycling Congress, which was hosted in Edmonton. It's a neighboring city in our province of Alberta. And yeah, I wouldn't say I would be the first person anyone would assume would go to it, given my history with cycling, and I'll explain that shortly in more detail. But yeah, I thought I don't have any other vacations planned this year. I kind of like going to conferences and learning things, and this one popped up in my social media feed. And from, of all accounts, the War on Cars account on Twitter, now called X, they posted about it, and I saw Edmonton and thought, wow, that sounds interesting. Well, let's do it.
Yeah. It's not too far away. You got up there. Tell us, what is the Winter Cycling Congress? Like, it sounds, I don't know, it sounds very official, but also like I do a little bit of winter cycling, but it's still also, I don't know, it feels almost a little out of reach, just like on the surface.
Yeah.
So can you tell us, like, what is it actually about?
Sure. So I've pulled the description from their site because I feel like it brings it all together nicely, and I'll expand on that. So, the history of this is that the first Winter Cycling Congress was in 2013, called Jump Into the Deep, and the creators are, not surprisingly, from Oulu, Finland, which, if any of you listening have delved into winter cycling enough, you'll run into videos and content talking about Oulu as an example of successful winter cycling, year-long cycling, because they do such a good job of taking care of their cycling infrastructure in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
And so it started there in 2013. It was a huge success. More than 150 delegates from 12 different countries participated in the first year, and many expressed the desire to do another one. So after the first, it moved to a different city for each year after. So it went Winnipeg, Canada, Leeuwarden, Netherlands, Minneapolis, US, Montreal, Canada, Calgary, Canada, Moscow, Russia, and Joensuu, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, Finland. And then there was a bit of a break because of the panini we went through. And then here we are, 2024. It was in Edmonton. So yes, why did I go? So the reason that it feels a little bit odd that I went, or that others might perceive that, is I just got back into cycling as transportation and activity last spring. So I'm almost 1 year into returning to cycling, which is exciting. But I have not yet, still, even after going to this conference, I haven't winter cycled. Something I am working up towards, and I thought, well, I'll just go to the conference to build up my confidence, get around people that are doing it, hear the conversations, hear what I should and should not be concerned about. And it worked out great. It was such a welcoming and wonderful group that was there. And honestly, it felt like half the conference was talking about, winter cycling specifics, technical stuff, but the other half was straight up urbanism conversations. How do we improve the infrastructure? How do we have conversations with our cities? What are great examples around the world that we can be showing our local jurisdictions? So, yeah, pretty incredible.
Yeah, that sounds really exciting.
Yeah.
I've got a question. You said
Yes.
that it's not something that you've really gotten into, and it kind of made me think, like, why is it something that you do want to get into? Like, what is the deal with winter cycling that you're like, you know what, like, maybe that's something I should give it a go, especially enough to then go to the Winter Cycling Congress and like talk to other people who are doing it?
Yeah. I think part of it is I do enjoy the freedom of getting places on my bike. And when I say freedom, I feel like I get to have control over my schedule a little bit because it's very predictable, at least in the fair weather months. There's not bike traffic jams, as it were. So, for the most part, once you've gone to a destination, you see, oh, that took me 20 minutes. In all likeliness, the next time will also be 20 minutes because there's not a lot of variables there, which is delightful. And I think also, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, following so many urbanists online, including some locals and other Canadians that are talking about how they're going out and winter cycling, and they're so happy doing it, that it just feels so good to be out, and that it's really, a little bit of preparation as they describe it, and it's a great experience. So yeah, I think it's my attempt to get over the psychological barriers, so I might be able to enjoy it. But I'm also recognizing there are some very real barriers and things that make it challenging. So, yeah.
Jen, what do you find is the biggest barrier? Sorry to cut. What do you find is the biggest barrier to you just with winter cycling in general? I know that you're still very new. You're still quite a layman. I'm very much new to winter cycling as well, despite living in Illinois growing up. But, I've lived in the Sun Belt for 6 years, and I haven't dealt with a whole lot of snow. So what do you find is like the hardest thing, or like the things that are a little difficult to get over?
Yeah, it can. I will preface this by saying it can be a little bit different from one location to the next, depending on the conditions and how their cities manage the things like snow. For me, in Calgary specifically, it's I have not. I'll have to build up my confidence in cycling on snow and ice. I know there's lots of conversations about studded tires, and those help a lot. But I am also seeing people talk about being prepared to react to if you still slip a little bit. And at least for me, in my body, I have some sort of physical recoveries I'm working on. And so I have those concerns in my head about, am I going to react quickly enough, or, if my body isn't capable of reacting in the right way, what kind of injury am I potentially signing myself up for? But again, it's a lot of, you don't know until you try it. But yeah, those are the big ones. The what's it like actually like to be on the snow? What kind of grip do I actually have if I've got winter tires on? And then there's little maintenance things that I'm thinking, will I actually be motivated to do it? Because the snow and the whatever salt sand used to keep the paths in rideable condition, you kind of have to keep that off of your gears and things like that. Sort of like a car, right? If you let it sit on there, it can wreck some things. So
yeah. And then I want to hear, before we kind of start moving on to the rest of the conversation, who did you meet and what did you learn? And was there anything particularly cool while you were there in Edmonton?
Yeah. I'll try to keep this quick and concise, but definitely some really great stuff. I will say that they had some really great merch. Not that merch should be the reason to go, but they had their own hoodie that I've got on now. Hopefully, I can tip this down so it's got a bike on there, and it says "All-Weather Cycler" or "Cyclist," which at this point, this is more of me, what do you call it? You're thinking about what you want.
Right.
It's kind of a lie. Anyways,
it's a manifestation.
That's the one. I'm manifesting with the hoodie. And then they gave these out. I did not realize the city of Edmonton has a whole initiative promoting being active and enjoying the city in the winter, like saying we are a winter city, and let's lean into that and have fun with that and create events around that. And then this is funny because it's technically the very last thing that happened at the event, which is the War on Cars was there, one of the highlight guests, and they did a podcast recording, which was really exciting. They ended up interviewing the last mayor of Edmonton, Don Iveson, who apparently is a big Trekkie and huge urbanist and created a lot of great urbanist solutions for the city. I had no idea. But they also made t-shirts for the podcast. So hopefully everybody will be able to see this if you're watching on YouTube, but it's the War on Cars logo with the North Saskatchewan River splitting through the logo, which the North Saskatchewan River goes along through the sort of center of Edmonton and has walking and biking paths. So what a cool specific thing they did for the event. But to quickly back up, day one, the current mayor made an appearance at the beginning, and he grew up in India, and he actually very specifically shared that growing up, the way kids ride bikes, and he and his friends absolutely did this, is called scissor style. So they will ride an adult-sized bike by essentially putting one leg through the open area where you'd put your water bottle and kind of riding a little bit sideways.
Interesting.
That's really cool, but also exciting to hear that he is pro cycling and into it. So that's always good to hear.
Edmonton's doing a lot of great stuff, like actually.
Not just cycling,
incredible.
Transit too.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you got it. And then one of my favorite panels featured 4 women. I don't know if it was specifically intended to be a women's panel, but what was great is there was a woman named Carly Coleman. She works for University of Alberta in Edmonton, but she's also a bike reporter for their radio station. Once a week, she reports on bike things in the city. Sarah Bisbee, who is known on TikTok as Mummy Pedals, she has, I think, four kids. I might be incorrect there, but they sold their vehicle full-time cargo biking all year long. Patty Wines from Bike Winnipeg, this brilliant, she's from Brazil originally and just absolutely loves winter cycling and raves about it online all the time. And then Cheryl Savard, who's their electric car battery caught on fire, and that sort of forced them into cycling more. Really interesting story. Anyways,
Interesting.
I also got to chat with the War on Cars hosts. They were absolutely lovely. It was Sarah and Doug specifically that I got to chat with, and talk about the differences between Calgary and Edmonton, because they like to sort of jokingly battle each other, and conversations about how people show off their status in New York, because most of the country will do it with their cars, but because they are more transit and pedestrian orientated, they do it with their clothing. Super interesting. Yeah, and aside from that, got to see the Urbanity YouTube channel hosts Jasmine and Patrick. They along with the Warren Cars and the About Here YouTube channel host Yute Lee had a panel, but I got to talk to all of them just on the side. That was the nice thing about being at a conference. It was small enough that you could actually one-on-one talk to people. And then,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
as I said
awesome.
before, the War on Cars live broadcast happened at the end, wrapping everything up. So, no regrets going. Everybody was wonderful, and I feel like I've got lots of people I can reach out to for the day I decide to actually try winter cycling.
Yeah. And you know what? I will say, you mentioned studded tires earlier, and I've got studded tires. They do make quite a difference. I got mine from Austin Serson, who's a regular listener and commenter on the show as well. But that's where I got mine, and he's kind of shown me a few things. So yeah, we've got a great growing community here of winter cyclers, and I'm glad that you were able to go there and kind of report back to us as a bit of a what do you call those
correspondent
people? Field reporter, correspondent. Thank you very much, Jen, our correspondent from the Winter Cycling Congress in Edmonton. Yeah, that's fantastic. Ethan's got some quick news here, a bit of an update from last week.
So, folks, I know that I started out talking, a story that I covered last week, relating to Bill SB 52 out of Indianapolis, Indiana, that would essentially ban bus lanes within the city of Indiana. Luckily, I have some excellent news to report on that. That bill is dead. It's dead. No more.
Everybody clap.
No more bus lane ban in Indiana.
Yeah.
They came to an agreement between the state and Indigo, which is the agency that runs the buses there. And it essentially, Indigo is going to have to forego bus lanes in areas where there is a limited amount of lanes. However, that is up to Indigo's discretion. So there's no real written, actual thing that says that Indigo can't put in bus lanes.
Right. They're just kind of saying okay, we're not gonna eat up all the lanes with bus
Basically,
lanes.
Yeah. That's essentially what the whole thing is. But it keeps bus lanes from being banned. Indigo's Blue Line is still going ahead on schedule. And hopefully we can see some more transit come to the state of Indianapolis. So that news actually broke Thursday morning. So when we posted that video last week, our coverage of SB 52 was already outdated. So I'm sorry to report that. Well, I'm not sorry to report that. I'm happy to report that SB 52 is dead. It's just, it came at the most inconvenient time with the episode coming out.
Yeah. But that is fantastic news. And I guess, it kind of sounds like, if they want to build a bus lane, then the right-of-way has to be wide enough for at least one entire extra lane.
Yeah, essentially.
Which okay, it would be nice if they could take out lanes and replace them with bus lanes. But you know what? I think this is a win because it's not dead.
It's
right?
A win because we avoided such a major loss on this one. Because it could be a whole lot worse right now than what we're currently dealing with there. And yeah, Indianapolis specifically as a city has dealt with a lot when it comes to transit building and transit-oriented developments and just a whole lot of, non-support from its own state. So it's actually kind of nice to see that they came to an agreement on this one that didn't totally screw over Indigo.
Yeah. It's a relief. Truly a relief. as far as my news, my little quick update here before we get into the big main stories of the episode, I just wanted to say I'm very optimistic about the amount of housing being built in Calgary. In this week's episode or episode video from Oh the Urbanity, Patrick and Jasmine talked about Edmonton and their time in Edmonton and kind of all of the great progress that Edmonton is making. And I was very pleased to see on the graphs that there were little, that Calgary was up there with Edmonton, doing a pretty decent job. And also got a shout out on RM Transit channel on Reese channel about Calgary having a good light rail system. That we have some good things going on. So I'm excited to see everything happening in Calgary, from West District, University District, and a bunch of other projects around the city. With that, we're going to jump straight into our big news stories. We've got a really exciting one coming out of California, and this is brought to us by Ethan here.
So, folks, once again, I'm here talking about a lovely story. Some more optimism for you this week. So, yesterday, if you didn't know, to our Canadians, was Super Tuesday, where Americans get to vote on or in primary elections. So, there was the presidential primaries for both parties. But a bunch of states and cities had their own ballot measures that get voted on Super Tuesday as well. And one of them happened to be in Los Angeles, and it was the Safe Streets Measure, HLA. Now, this had been a very heavily discussed topic, and what HLA is essentially a Safe Streets Bill. It's going to be implementing a project called Project 2035 within Los Angeles that's going to be essentially tackling a whole bunch of street safety projects. So making, wider sidewalks, safer pedestrian crossings, better bike lanes, and this bill passed yesterday. And it's really exciting to see this because Los Angeles, always known as a city that, is based on the automobile, lost all of its public transit, but I think LA is actually doing a lot to overcome that. They passed a ballot initiative 5 years ago, or actually probably more than 5 years ago at this point, called Measure M, which gave a whole ton of transit funding. They've been building out this really nice transit network with LA Metro. And this bill right here should do some really, really solid work for the city of LA on actually making it a safer space for pedestrians and cyclists. And I think what this measure really shows, at least from my opinion, is that LA and Angelenos are really, not vibing with the idea of driving everywhere or taking Ubers everywhere. They're kind of done with that, and they want to actually have a transit network and cycling and pedestrian infrastructure that's on par with other major cities in the U.S.
Yeah. And so that's great to see. Do they have, did they just pass something saying like, this is something we want to do?
So this is the funding. So they already had the plan in for a bunch of different streets and stuff like that. So a lot of major boulevards and stuff like that in Los Angeles are going to get some pedestrian improvements. This was basically to secure the state funding for that.
Okay, nice.
So this is the money. They've approved the money to go into the plan, and now they can enact this plan to actually, fix a lot of pedestrian, or to, make streets a little more safer for pedestrians and cyclists.
Nice. That's exciting. Jen, have you ever been to LA?
Oh, yes. Well, I should say LA adjacent several times in the past few years. There was a conference called VidCon that I was attending very regularly with another friend of ours. And so first year was in LA and all the other years were in Anaheim. But I have regularly thought, especially, speaking of the Winter Cycling Congress, the conversation is always like, oh, you can't cycle in what's the point of creating infrastructure for cycling when most of the year is winter? But then you look at a place like Los Angeles and go, you have no issues from a weather perspective. Why aren't you doing this? It's such an easy win for this city. But I think that speaks to how car-centric North America is. If this beautiful weather, very consistent, sunny weathered place has struggled historically.
LA is a major the LA metro area is an area of major contrast when it comes to infrastructure, because you'll have, places like Orange County where they just don't have any, real good bike infrastructure or anything like that. And then you'll have communities like Santa Monica where it's quite literally some of the best bicycle infrastructure in the entire country. Like it's really crazy how much some of this, infrastructure within the own metro area clashes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, it is interesting that you get that difference. Go ahead, Jen.
I was going to say something that I have done a couple times recently out of curiosity, because I do like partaking in the Disneyland resort parks.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, I wonder, could I stay at a hotel a little bit further out from the resort and bike to the park? What are the options? And it did not feel like it was something that people were doing. And I was even thinking from previous visits being around the conference, which is nearby, I don't remember seeing or noticing bikes. And even looking at bike parking at Disneyland, there are some bike racks, and they're definitely the closest parking you can get. But again, I've never noticed bikes, and it wasn't obvious that there were bike rentals if somebody wanted to do it, or how you were to bike if you were visiting. Are you supposed to be on the street? Are you supposed to be on the sidewalk? Right? It's clearly not highlighted or encouraged, which is too bad. But I think a great opportunity.
Oh, 100%.
Orange County, or at least, around the Anaheim area, is the one thing about the Los Angeles Metro is that it's just so sprawling. Like, I believe that the LA Metro is actually considered 3 separate metro areas, which is insane because that's how much car-centric sprawl was built out in the area. Like a lot of the cities in between the major ones are pretty much entirely car-dependent sprawl. Which, it's insane to think about. But I mean, like, if you look at like LA proper, that area, it's definitely seeing an improvement. And then you look at areas that are outside of that, like the Inland Empire, where like San Bernardino is, definitely could use some work. And especially the area around Anaheim, especially like Disneyland, could definitely use some serious work. Now, there is a city right next to Anaheim called Santa Ana that has been doing some really good upzoning and also some transit planning. I think they're actually planning to open a streetcar through downtown Santa Ana soon.
That's sweet.
It is. Cool. It's a weird area of a lot of contrast.
Yeah. There's some stuff happening, and I will say, so my sister used to live in the Inland Empire, and the roads there are so overbuilt. Every single road has like 2 extra lanes that no matter what time of day, you're like, why is this here? And of course, all of those lanes feed onto the highways. And so then you're sitting on the highways and they're packed full because all the other lanes in all the other neighborhoods are overbuilt. But you cannot do that. Like it breaks down eventually, right? You can't just load unlimited lanes onto a limited highway. And so it's just dreadful to drive in. So I'm excited to see these changes, and I really hope that these changes come along with not just mobility options, not just other mobility options, but other like local shopping and amenities and things like that. Because I mean, that's great that you have bike lanes, but if using the bike lane to get to the grocery store still takes half an hour, that's still not enough. Right? We need we need to build better all around.
Yeah, one of the huge benefits of the Los Angeles area too, I'm specifically talking about like the main valley that LA is in, is that it actually does have a lot of that good mixed use zoning in it. Surprisingly, a lot of the major issues that come with LA is the fact that it's just so sprawling and that you're going to have to build better transit with it as well. Because you can get down on that micro level with cycling infrastructure and pedestrian infrastructure. And LA actually doesn't need a whole ton of it definitely needs improvements, but it's definitely better than some other cities out there. Its main issue is going to be regional transit, and one of their agencies, Metrolink, which is basically their regional rail, is actually converting from more of a commuter-based system that caters to the 9 to 5 and changing over to being more of a regional rail system like what Go is doing right now, or what a lot of the agencies around New York do, or like how SEPTA in Philly with their regional rail is kind of operating. It's switching to be more of a regional rail system rather than just being for that 9 to 5 commuter. And I think that's going to be a great benefit for the Los Angeles region.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Any other comments on this story? This is kind of a big deal.
Hopefully, as well too, I hope some other cities can really follow the lead on this one and provide some funding for pedestrianization, because these pedestrian and cycling improvements are the cheapest way that you can actually improve your city's infrastructure when it comes to making it more walkable and reducing car dependency.
100%. Yeah, it's a huge deal. Thanks for bringing that to us, Ethan. Next, I've got a story here. This is the Alberta provincial budget for 2024-2025. And this is actually, well, there's a lot to be disappointed about with it. A lot of people are disappointed that there's just not enough support for housing in here, and education, healthcare, other things that I've heard people concerned about. But I'm going to highlight some of the positives in this budget, and that is rail. And we also got emailed by Reese in Calgary, who kind of brought a few specifics to my attention in this budget. So I'm going to list off a few of the things here that we're getting. So $667 million over the next 3 years are committed for Calgary light rail projects, including $43.4 million to extend the Blue Line LRT to 88th Avenue Northeast, which is one stop further than what it is already. But this is to support future connection to the Calgary International Airport. And then we also have $7.8 million to redevelop the Olympic Plaza and renovate and expand the existing Arts Commons facility, which the Arts Commons project we've talked about on the show briefly before. That's a big thing that's coming up. Then Edmonton also gets $887 million over the next 3 years for LRT projects. So that's more great news. And Edmonton also gets $124 million to expand Terwilliger Drive to alleviate traffic congestion, which you might think, okay, one more lane, bro. Well, it's actually, and to add bus and pedestrian lanes. So there's some great progress for us there. And I'll also mention some funding is in the budget for Calgary River District and Event Center, YYC Rail Connection, which is a connection from downtown Calgary to the airport, and another $9 million allocated for a 15-year passenger rail network master plan in Alberta. So I'm especially excited about that 15-year master plan, because according to what was released, it includes delivery, not just, hey, we did a study, we looked at this thing. Yeah, think about it. Maybe, this is where we'd put it, I guess.
Let's do our 27th environmental review of this project.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the problem when we talk about these master plans and these studies, and we're going to do this and we're going to do this. Well, the Green Line in Calgary, which construction begins this year, which I'm very excited for. The Green Line, the original study was done in the 80s, and now we're starting construction in the 20s. Guys, it's been forever. And so then when you do these studies with no intention of following through on them, a lot of the time it's just like, well, we have to redo the study because all of the regulations changed, plans changed, ideas changed,
I think we're maybe getting a little bit better on that, at least like so. Reducing the amount of like studies that we have to do. Now, cost raising or reducing cost on projects, we're definitely not doing better on, but at least we can get to the project just a little bit faster than we could maybe say 20 years ago. But it is really exciting to see Alberta get that funding. It would be nicer than to have a 15-year, wait on, or at least, 15 years on, getting rail. It'd probably be, essential to link two cities that are very well or very not well connected at the moment that aren't far from each other, like perfect rail distance,
Yeah.
and it's like completely flat land in between them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, at the moment, between Calgary and Edmonton, so for some context for people listening in, Calgary and Edmonton are about a 3 hour drive away from each other. Cities of about the same size, and and yeah, the the land between us is pretty flat, and the right of way exists, and wouldn't require much straightening out at all for a high speed rail.
What's that?
Um,
Sorry.
go ahead,
Oh, I was
Ethan.
gonna ask, what's that little town in between you guys called? That's like not like completely tiny, but like
Red Deer.
Red Deer,
okay.
and it's actually it's not that small. Let me check what the population is. I mean, it's
Decent
not that
size.
small by like Canadian
I
standards.
think it's over
Uh,
100,000.
yeah, it's just over 100,000 people.
Yeah. So
Yeah, so so there's a whole other connection there, but also there are over 60 flights between the Calgary International Airport and the Edmonton International Airport every single day. 60 flights. And these are typically done with smaller planes, and a lot of those flights are WestJet moving people from Edmonton to Calgary because Calgary is where they fly to the rest of the world from. So that's what a lot of those flights are, which is why I think, adding a rail in so that you only have to go through security once, you only have to, go through customs once, right? It's just like
Mhm.
streamlines the process for people coming from Edmonton and area traveling or traveling to Edmonton and area. I'm also going to highlight here too. So Rail for Alberta, in their newsletter on March 4th, they mentioned a couple wins for rail in Alberta, and this includes that. But there is also win number one. They say a pilot regional rail service to support future planning. So this would be Cochrane to Airdrie via Calgary downtown. Um, is one of the wins that they have in mind. So we actually, I think, although we're still talking about the high speed rail Calgary to Edmonton, and that's a big deal. We're also talking about rail to Airdrie and to Cochrane, Chestermere, Okotoks, all of these other kind of surrounding areas in Calgary. So some good progress happening here, at least on trains.
yeah, regional rail is
Really
super important.
Yeah,
well, and
Jen.
the talking about getting rail to these bedroom communities that are just outside. They keep talking about all of the traffic that occurs on the one of the main thoroughfares, Deerfoot Trail. Talk about a great way to ease that off,
Mm-hmm.
get people
Yeah.
on rail. That's exciting. And selfishly, I liked hearing Terwilliger Drive. My parents are Terwilligerites. I don't know if they actually
Oh,
call
really?
themselves that, but
Yeah.
I actually, hang out in that area when I visit with them. So that's pretty exciting.
That's good news. That's
Yeah.
that's awesome. Um, yeah, and you mentioned alleviating that traffic. I think it's really important to remember if somebody is driving from one of these exurbs of Calgary, like Airdrie, their commute is already quite long, and then they have to come into the city and sit in traffic in order to get into work or wherever they're headed, and that's a hassle. I mean, it would be fantastic if they were able to just drive to the train station or take a bus to the train station and go from there. Because a train from Airdrie, there are plans to eventually extend Calgary's light rail transit to Airdrie. That's kind of an intention the city has, um, though I'm not sure if that should happen or will happen. But Airdrie would be one stop away from downtown. You wouldn't be stopping in other places. There wouldn't be like traffic on the way. Your commute would actually probably be cut down by this train because you live so far out and have to come in for work. Your
And
commute would probably be cut down.
and even if you don't switch to the train, if enough people switch to the train, then your commute's still going to get cut down.
Yeah.
Also, speaking about bus connections to trains, you guys Canada just blows everybody away with that.
Oh,
Insane.
thanks, Ethan.
Like, no, like the amount of just routing your bus systems around making the transfer to the light rail or just feeding in a light rail makes your
Yeah.
system that much better when it comes to ridership.
Yeah, that is a big thing. I've talked to people about this before. If you build a coffee shop in the middle of a farmer's field, who's gonna go there, right? Like who's sitting at that cafe? You really gotta, put it in the right place, and you gotta have the right connectivity. And I'm glad that that's something that you see happening is that we do have those connections. And I think in Calgary, like Calgary's done a pretty good job with their coverage.
I
Always can
mean,
be better, but
just saying a city of what, 750,000, something around there for Calgary, or like a metro area just under a million
oh
being.
no, our metro area is like 1.6 and the city's 1.5.
I mean, the fact that a city or a metro area of 1.6 million can be in the top 5 for LRT ridership with only 2 lines is just a
Yeah,
testament to how well bus connections work to light rail.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and just like building the spaces where the LRT goes in Calgary really focuses on density, and the city's doing a lot to put density in those areas. Which Jen has a story on that. I think we can move on from the
Yeah,
the Alberta provincial budget, but Jen actually has a story for us on some housing in a dense area near transit.
Sure. Yeah, I will do my best to describe this. You have a little bit more knowledge than I do, interestingly enough. But an article came out from CBC News Calgary that the CNIB, so this is the Canadian Institute for the Blind, are planning a 27-story tower in the Bridgeland site redevelopment. Now, Bridgeland is the neighborhood that I happen to reside in. Really wonderful, walkable, bikeable area. With that said, it's the location of this tower that has some people in the neighborhood speaking out because
Hmm.
it happens to uh, block a view of the downtown core from other people if it goes up where it's expected at the height that it is expected, which is I understand when you get used to a really nice view, and it is a pretty cool view. I can
Hmm.
understand missing it, but it's an interesting challenge. I think this happens in a lot of cities where a new building needs to go up, and it could be in a lot that's been empty for a long time. We were discussing this before going live here, and all of a sudden people are going, "Oh wait, but now I lose my sight line. I enjoyed being able to look out off into the distance and not have a building right up against me." But I think the reality is, you know, especially living in a city, your sight line, your views are not guaranteed. Or if you want them guaranteed, you kind of have to look into that before you commit to where you live, because that's the nature of cities. Things go up, things go down, sight lines
Yeah.
change.
hmm
It is, yeah. I think that's kind of the what you're getting at. Like the deal with cities, is that things are not going to stay the same. I mean, that's the deal with anywhere, really,
change is
not
going to
just cities,
happen.
but yeah, yeah. But cities in particular, um, they like they change. Like
Despite
that's the bottom line.
despite the wishes of some people, cities are always going to need to be adapting in order to keep up.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
true.
That's how it's always going to happen. I'm actually going to. I think this will be a little bit interesting. I'm going to give us a bit of a background actually um, on the area of Bridgeland. This is going
Ooh,
to be kind of cool. Let me
exciting.
share my screen with you
While
guys
that's
here.
loading, I should mention, a thought that came in all of our minds when we were thinking about, oh, people are losing their view, and it's the Canadian Institute for the Blind, was, well, that might have an added frustration because we're thinking the tenant residents of this will be people that were blind. But I think this is a good time to remind everyone blindness has variety. It can be everything from partial vision loss to near complete vision loss, all sorts of varieties. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually excited that they're in my neighborhood, period. It's incredible to
Yeah.
have an institution like that supporting folks in Canada that are experiencing partial or complete blindness.
Yeah, and I will say too, I don't I don't know if this will just be like a building only for people experiencing a variety of blindness. But they will have specific inclusive design elements that I'm super excited to see how like what that looks like because we see those development or those design elements, those inclusive design elements for accessibility in our streets, right? In the tactile strips and things like that, as well as urban braille. You'll see that a lot at train stations. And so I'm excited to see what that looks like in an apartment building and how we might further implement that um, in other areas and in other spaces. Because I think it's great when we design for a variety of people, and I think we also come to realize that those designs end up benefiting more people than we always initially think. One thing as well that I'll say before I share this video with you guys is that is that in Bridgeland, there's also a I think it's for Alzheimer's or dementia. There's a care home there, and some planners in the city at a firm here. They were telling me about they're designing some really cool wayfinding elements that are specifically designed for people dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia and other memory loss sort of things in order to help get them out into the community instead of being cooped up in their care space, in order to get them out into the community and enjoying the community and have some activity out there. But with that, I'm going to share this video here. So this is we're going to Bridgeland here. October 4th, 1998. So this, oh man, all this intro for this video. So this is in Calgary, and we can see this is the General Hospital that used to be in Bridgeland. It's a huge property, and there's the skyline. The skyline looks different now, obviously, but they blew up the hospital in order to make way for development. It was an old hospital, but it's kind of interesting. Like you don't think about that. And I'll stop sharing this in a second here, and I'll show you guys another thing that you'll be interested to see. So
I like the kids' response. That was cool.
Wait, you guys can hear it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, I heard nothing. That's funny. The sound didn't come through for me.
We'll see if it comes through for the audience there.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. There was a kid. I did watch it before, but there was a kid who said that was cool, and it is kind of cool. Change can be cool. Also dusty. But here I'm going to show you guys this now. So of course we all know how much I love this. I believe this is So this is the lot where that building is going to be, and this is the hill that people will miss the view from. Somebody I know actually did. They did a little bit of like a little bit of a rendering to show what that view will look like, and the change isn't actually that much. It's not that bad. You can still see most of the skyline quite nicely. I think this development is absolutely worth it. So this is the Bridgeland area. You can see a lot of homes over here that are have been here forever, right? We'll go, I think, because Jen and I went on a walk down here, and somewhere along here there was that sidewalk stamp that was 1913. So we're going to actually travel all the way back in time to the earliest aerial imagery that we have. Look at that. Still there all that time ago. And then we'll pop forward here, see through time, and the different buildings that come through here. So here you see the General Hospital right here. Massive parking lot. Actually, even destroyed some homes to build the parking lot at the hospital. You can see that change there. But then, of course, now we pop all the way up to 2022, and there's a park there. There's a bunch of housing going in here. There's a few good restaurants along here as well, along First Ave. So it's really interesting to look at that and see how things change, how the city changes, and how our uses change, and the things that we care about change, and that's, I mean, that's part of the deal of being in a city. There's my your city changes rant for the day.
No, my
Now,
city needs to be a time capsule of what it was like 50 years ago. Nothing can change whatsoever. No
Yeah.
new housing,
Yeah.
no new businesses, no new anything, just the same.
Mhm.
And do you know what, though? I think it's important to remember that we all feel like that, right? Like, it's not just what we call NIMBYs, who might feel like, why is everything changing around me? There are going to be things that change in your neighborhood that maybe you don't like, right? Maybe you're the person with a really great view. That could be. But there are always going to be changes in your neighborhood, and hopefully we can work to, be okay with it, even though we might not always like it.
Yeah. Now, when you were showing the screenshots, the overhead, I had a realization, and I think probably one of the bigger reasons people are wanting to protect their view from that vantage that I had forgotten about, which is the Calgary Stampede fireworks are right in that viewpoint, and they are pretty spectacular once a year for a week or so. There's nightly fireworks and sometimes other points of the year, but I think that's one of the variables that I didn't think about.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for sharing that story with us, Jen. We've got some listener mail to share with you all today. And the first one comes from Austin, and I think we should expand more on this sometime. But he suggests as a topic the Albany Skyway in New York, where they decommissioned an interstate off-ramp into a 2-acre linear park, better connecting the city to its waterfront. I'm just finding, he says, out about this. No one's talking about it, and it's been open for almost 2 years now. That's kind of interesting. Have either of you guys been to Albany?
I've been through Albany. I haven't been in Albany, but it is definitely a city that has been choked by highways. Here's just a quick, just a photo of what it kind of looks like. You'll see, yeah, it is an overpass that has been converted. But Albany is probably, in New York, it's probably one of the worst examples of urban renewal destroying a city. I actually covered it in one of my more recent videos. But yeah, it is. It's a city that is kind of trying to right the wrongs of urbanism. But in the Northeast, you're more likely to get projects like this, even in the smaller cities, just because you have that energy of living without a car. Living car light is something that's more likely, and you have that older built up downtown that kind of survived a lot of the urban renewal projects.
Right.
There's another really great example of highway infrastructure turned into pedestrian infrastructure, and it's in Providence, Rhode Island. I believe it was Interstate 95 used to run right through the middle of downtown Providence and cross over the river to get through the city. But they rerouted it, and that bridge was actually turned into a pedestrian bridge where you can cycle and walk over it. And now instead of it being an interstate there, it's fully accessible, as a place for pedestrians and, not cars. But yeah, that Albany development I'd never heard of, so that's super exciting.
Yeah, it's great. And I think I don't know, like things like this are happening all the time. There's good news to be found, you know. Um, yeah, yeah. I think that's great, and maybe that's something we'll have to look more into. Maybe I mean that could be a whole episode
The
talking about things that have been redeveloped or like reclaimed from highways and roads and stuff.
the Albany or not Albany, but like upstate New York has actually been pretty big on removing highways. Like, I don't know if you all know about Rochester, New York. Pretty much, they got rid of a good chunk of their ring highway around their downtown and turned it into a
Hmm.
more walkable area. It's actually one of the more, I think Strong Towns uses it a lot as an example, but Rochester, New York is definitely a great example for that.
Oh, Jen disappeared.
Jen disappeared.
Jen disappeared, and she needs to do the next comment.
Oh my goodness.
I hope she didn't lose internet.
We're gonna have to keep talking about Albany.
Let me keep. Oh,
God,
no,
there's not enough to talk about in Albany to hold off.
How much more do we have to talk about Albany? Please.
Crazy
please.
thing.
Okay. Jen said her computer just crashed. She's gonna reconnect.
I can relate.
Wow. I'm like. I'm like, oh my goodness, Jen's gone. What do we do? There's only two of us.
Well, the fun thing about, stupid fact about Albany, they don't have an Amtrak station. Their Amtrak station is actually across the river in Rensselaer, New York.
Interesting. Fun fact about Albany, since we're here. Okay, so this is the New York Travel Guide. Amazing, weird, fun, and interesting facts about Albany, New York. All right, let's see what we've got here.
It's a good place to get a steamed ham.
Wow, that's good news. Great. I've been looking for a steamed ham. The number one on their list on this website is Albany has several nicknames. The capital city of New York State boasts several nicknames. These include Smallbany, due to its fairly small population size, 518 or 518 as a result of its area code, and Cradle of the Union, due to its historical importance during the American Civil War. In more recent times, Albany has gained the nickname Tech Valley, due to an abundance of technology companies in the nearby area. I love cities pandering to tech companies, actually. It kind of warms my heart in this weird, cute way. You know, it's like, wow, good for you guys.
It's
you know,
one city I used to live in, Jacksonville, Florida, always loved to tout itself as being the Silicon Valley of the East.
I love that. Like, it's the same in Utah. They say they have the Silicon Slopes is what they say. Everybody, you know, I'm sure Calgary's got one. Edmonton's probably got one. Vancouver. I'm sure everybody's got some.
Everybody's got a claim to an industry that they are definitely not leading in.
We're the new tech hub.
Guys, we're the next Hollywood.
Yeah. It's so good. Jen is back. Thank goodness.
And that is the end of Albany discussion on on this podcast forever.
Forever. We're never ever talking about Albany again.
Oh no.
Jen, you'll hear it when the episode comes out tomorrow. But
or if you want to join the Patreon, you can get early access to episodes.
Yeah, supposedly, except Nick was doing the uploading of those episodes, and then I just I forgot about it.
Well, folks, if you still want to support the channel, regardless of an early episode or not, you can always go and check out our Patreon.
We'll just add a perk.
That'd be so nice.
I'm going to commit that all of the hosts will read you bedtime poetry. That's going to be one of the.
Do you know what?
Do you know? I will do that. I will record a special video just for the Patreon of me reading bedtime
That's
stories.
only if we hit a patron goal.
Good night.
We need to hit.
We need to hit a patron, or at least a YouTube goal. You know.
Okay. There will be at some point when we reach a number of things.
You have to set it though. This is your idea.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. We'll sort that
We
out.
got
And
this.
Jen was never a guest again because of
Yeah.
rude suggestions like this. I do want to make a comment about Albany. Something I was thinking about. I think it was interesting. It made me think of when The Last of Us season 1 was being filmed in Calgary, and they would shut down portions of the city to look like it was an apocalypse and everything,
Hmm.
right? And one of our major thoroughfares into the downtown is something called the Fourth Avenue Flyover, which is
Hmm.
really close to my neighborhood. And it was pretty incredible being able to observe it as not in for positive reasons at all, but a pedestrianized space with greenery. Forget the rusted out vehicles. It looked like a
Yeah.
lovely place to walk,
Yeah.
minus
Yeah.
possible death.
Minus the zombies.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, so when they were filming The Last of Us here, the airport tunnel is used as the interstate tunnel. I think it's in, was it Kansas City
Yeah.
that was a stand-in? Yeah. So
Mhm.
that tunnel that they kind of come up to and they stop at that tunnel. That's the airport tunnel here in Calgary that goes under one of the runways. And I remember I think I dropped my great aunt off at the airport, and then I'm driving away, and I look over, and I see like this just like scene of destruction, and I'm like, oh my goodness, what happened? I didn't realize it was a movie set until like months later. I'm like, oh, that's what I saw. Oh, okay,
my
yeah.
my favorite thing is that I still have a bunch of friends who live in Chicago, and I'll always see their updates, and they're like, "Up, Chicago PD," or "Up, Chicago Fire's recording on my," or like 3 blocks from my house, something like
So
that. Or back in the day, it used to be like, "Oh, Shameless is recording over here."
yeah,
It was great.
yeah. It is kind of fun. It's fun having like something film near your
I
house.
can imagine for Calgary,
Um,
it's really fun because I can't imagine a whole ton of movie studios go out to Calgary.
there's a surprising amount. There's like a surprising amount.
Mhm.
Not a ton. Like it's not Vancouver or
Yeah, I
Toronto.
was gonna say it's not like
Um,
Toronto's becoming like the new New York City because you can kind of fake New
yeah,
York City there and be like, oh yeah, this is New York City.
yeah.
Ignore the traffic cones that are definitely not New York City. This is New York City, guys.
There was a joke made about that in a recent Star Trek episode in the second season of Strange New Worlds. Great show, by the way. Um, and the couple characters they go back in time into Toronto in like 2030 or I don't know, or no, later than that. It's like 2100 something. I don't know. No. Yeah, it's 2030. Anyways, they go back in time, and they're in Toronto, and one of the characters says, "Oh, this looks like New York," and they kind of make a joke about like Toronto always being used, you know. But I've seen movie. He says something like, "Oh, this looks like New York," and then she says, "No, it's Toronto," and then he says, "Huh, weird. Like I've seen movies of New York, and this is what it looks like." Anyways, it's a good time. We love filming stuff here. Anyways, Jen has a comment to read. Are you on the thing, Jen? Can you see the comment that you're supposed to read?
Let me pull it up. Obviously, when my
Okay.
computer crashed, it closed, but I can open it really
Oh
quickly.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm so sorry.
restore
I'm
Chrome
glad your computer's
pages.
okay.
Yeah,
You'd think I would remember my own comment, but I have the ADHD. My goodness. Uh, People cannot see this, but in my comment on YouTube, I added a poop emoji. And it's really large in
I
this
saw it.
document.
Yeah. When I copied it into the document, it just like turned huge.
It adds to the entertainment.
Yeah.
This is okay. So my comment: thoughts on riding horseback as your daily transport, assuming there was full service horse care at both your home and destination, plus street cleaning. I knew when I asked it, I thought, if they start thinking about having to get off to clean up after the horse, or having to take care of the horse at any point, it's not going to be a yes. But if all of the work and maintenance of a living creature was not there, would you go for it?
Me personally, no. But I know in Calgary there are some police officers who ride horses. Every now and then you'll see them. But I think in a big city there's more efficient ways to get around.
Don't get me wrong. I like horses. They can be very nice animals. I just don't want to deal with that. I'd rather deal with the bike.
When you say deal with that, what are the details there? Obviously, I already took away having to clean up and or brush and care.
I mean, I still have to emotionally take care of the horse. Like it has thoughts. Like I have to, I like when you do like animal care and stuff like that, you have to take it out and give it entertainment. Like you can't have it sitting around bored all day. Like it's a real time commitment.
No, I'm telling you, that's taken care of. It's sort of like...
Well, I want to take care of it. If I'm going to have a horse, I want to take care of it. I want all the benefits and downsides of a horse. It's a pet and it's transportation.
You haven't hung out with enough wealthy folks that they just board their horses. They pay a place to take care of the horse, and they show up on the weekends in their fancy horse riding outfits, partake in a horse ride, and then walk away. And in between, there's teams of people making sure that horse is super happy, going out for regular walks and rides, etc., etc., etc. That's why I say, it will be taken care of. It's more of the experience of commuting with a horse instead of a bike or a train.
I think I'll take a bike.
You're still going to a bike.
Well, I mean, my bike can't get spooked. That's the thing. A horse can.
That's true. Yeah.
A horse can.
You're introducing another creature into it. I do. I'm going to stick with my bike as well. But I do love alternative modes of transportation in cities.
If you want to ride a horse around,
it's better than if there's a body of water and you want a kayak to work or something like that. That all sounds cool.
Actually, do that.
Right? Like
I think that's been done in
Calgary.
Slight tangent here. I remember seeing this video of this guy who would commute from I think it was somewhere in suburban New Jersey, but he would bike on his Brompton and then take out a kayak and then kayak across the Hudson to work in New York City. And that would be his commute.
That's pretty cool.
Amazing.
I was like, that's awesome, but it's insane.
Jen, what about you? Horses?
I'd do it. And I mean, I had experience growing up. I was very fortunate to partake in, it was just called horse camp, but you go out to the mountains, they had tents set up, so as a sort of early teens for a few years, I got to go for these horse camps and really got to know riding. So I feel like it's a little bit of if you've experienced it and have that level of confidence, it's such an incredible way to get around. And I would argue almost there's the spooking variable, but I always think of horses also don't want to die. And so they'll do what they need to do to stay safe. They're not going to veer into vehicles because they can recognize that's probably not a good idea.
I also, I wonder if horses would almost add a traffic calming mechanism. Like they would kind of act as traffic calming.
You're not going to hit a horse.
Because people would be like, oh, yeah, exactly. Like people are going to be like, there's a horse there, and they're thinking about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and it's large enough to at least visually be comparable to a vehicle in height. Maybe not in width, but I think at least in Alberta and a lot of places in Canada, people know if you hit a deer or a moose, that's a lot of damage to your vehicle. It's not just that's a sucky situation. It's that's going to do way more damage to your vehicle than hitting a cyclist or a pedestrian.
That's going to do. If you hit a moose, that's going to do damage to you, personally.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I knew a guy who hit a moose and barely survived. He was lucky to live because those animals,
they're huge. They're massive,
huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, horses in cities. The official stance of this podcast is pro-ish.
Well,
Ethan.
I think it was something like it was in like 18. It was like in the 1870s. New York City estimated that like if their population growth was to continue into 1890 or 1900, that Manhattan would be covered in like 3 feet of horse crap. And then the subways got built.
See, yeah, and that is a perfect example that not every mode of transportation works for every situation.
Yeah.
Right. That's why we need a variety, because right now our cities are covered in lots of pollution from cars.
Car crap.
Take that for what it is.
Yeah.
In this case, it would be poollution.
Poollution. I like that. Good.
All right, folks. Well, our last listener mail comes in from Sean Troy, and they said, "Nice work as always, y'all. Nick, I likewise love walking and biking and even taking a train, but I'm rooting for McLaren this week in Bahrain. Cars go fast fun. Cars stuck in traffic done. Dumb."
Amen.
Nice.
Amen, Sean.
We'll have Nick answer that as well, too, next week. But,
Yeah, I'm sure Nick will have other things to say about F1 in the future. Are you a racing fan at all, Jen?
Yes. Well, I should say racing fan. I'm racing fan adjacent. My dad is a major racing fan. I grew up, and he would always want to watch it live. We had a massive satellite dish on our acreage growing up. I grew up in small town northern Alberta, and I would be woken up early AM to ram, ram, just the sound of cars on a track on these live broadcasts. And so I do have an appreciation. I don't follow it and keep track of the names or whatever have you, but it is fun to sit down and watch. I you know what, if it was cars in these competitions and not taking up space in the cities, I'm down for it. Give them a racetrack to go super fast. It is a very fun and interesting to watch, just not on my street.
Yeah. And then F1 and NASCAR show up on your street, and then you're like, oh, for real? Like, you're actually going 200 on the. Surely this will not encourage anybody else to go 200 down my street.
Well, and calling back to earlier, I was talking about the war on cars being at the Congress. I've been going through all of their episodes, and they just did a 3-part series where this isn't recent, I think it was 2022, where one of the hosts met and interviewed a gentleman in New York who was part of street racing clubs where they would meet up and race and do donuts, because it's, he kind of wanted to get to know why are you motivated to do this? What is it about it? It's clearly dangerous, and depending on where you're doing it, can be bothersome to people nearby. But I like that he took the time to get to know, and he wasn't insulting. He was open-minded to just hearing the story, and he got to go out one night to experience it. It was fascinating because the guy said, okay, night of, I'll send you the locations. They could change on the fly. If the police show up, we just text the next location. And they ended up going to, I think, about 8, and he was at it until 2 a.m. Wild.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
Highly recommend those episodes.
Yeah, they're really, really fantastic. And I listened to those episodes, and I was just thinking about the same thing. And I remember he didn't really understand it, like it wasn't for him, right? And I think that's the important thing to remember. Not everything's for you, but I will say going fast is fun. It's fun. That's it. And that's why I love high-speed trains. I think that's great, and I agree with what Sean said. Cars stuck in traffic, dumb, but cars go fast, fun.
One last thing before we wrap up F1. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but there's the F1 track. It's opening, I believe, it's somewhere in Saudi Arabia, but it's going to have like an elevated, like tight turn on it. It's really weird. Well, I'll have to bring that up when Nick's on the show as well, too. But
it's giving me Rainbow Road risky.
Oh, when I saw it,
I
saw it, that's what I immediately defaulted to. I'm like, is this Rainbow Road, but in like real life?
And for those that might not be familiar, Rainbow Road is a track as part of Super Mario Racing, where you're a Super Mario character racing.
Mario Kart.
But it Mario Kart, thank you. And there are no edges to this road. If you go off to the side, you go off the ledge.
Yeah.
But it's a rainbow, so it's
the
not
craziest
that
track.
bad.
It's fun. It is a lot of fun. Well, thanks, Jen, for joining us. Do you have any? I want to give you some like final words here. Anything you want to say to the audience as we wrap up the show?
Thank you for having me, first and foremost. I hope that this episode is as good as the others for you with my being guest. And I appreciate having fellow urban nerds out there. So
that's a new term.
Urban nerds?
Urban nerds.
I'm an urban nerd.
I like it.
Yeah, so anyways, thanks for your time and attention this week. And I look forward to seeing the band back together in the next episode.
Well, Nick's still traveling in the next episode. So.
Whenever that happens.
Well, actually, no, we will have Nick here. Stay tuned, everybody.
Possibly.
But, thanks for joining us, Jen.
Thank you, Jen.
Ethan, where can people go to find
Folks, you know where to find me at Climate and Transit on every single social media except for Twitter. That is just at Climate Transit. Alex, where can we find you?
You can find me at Humane Cities wherever I happen to be, which is Instagram and YouTube. So follow me there. And we've got some exciting stuff happening.
Jen, do you want to shout out your socials?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. It's Hull's Emporium everywhere. Pretty easy. HALLS Emporium. All one word.
Nice.
All right.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. This was grand and groovy. And we'll see you on the next episode next week.
I'll see you in the comments.
See you folks next week. All right.
Do you want to say your thing?
Oh,
Ethan?
yes. Train good and car bad. And I actually threw that on a sticker. You can find that on my merch, in my link trees, on all my social medias.
Nice.
Perfect. And feet first. All right, guys, that's going to do it. We'll see you later.